check and make sure you're up to date on what's going on throughout the day. The activities at Open Streets will range from everything from kid-friendly activities to bike enthusiasts and to foodies. We'll have everything from bounce houses to bike repair clinics and bike polo, and all kinds of food trucks that locally from the Food Truck League, as well as beer gardens and fun brunch options. So whether you're in it for the healthy activities or in it for the street festival, you don't want to miss this. It's going to be a good event.
Next up is our History Minute.
When Utahns think of home, fry sauce is one of the first things that comes to mind. This ubiquitous condiment is a mystery to much of the rest of the country, but its origin lies right here in Salt Lake City. Originally called pink sauce, it was developed by a chef named Don Carlos Edwards. Don Carlos gained fame in the Salt Lake area with his mobile food cart peddling hamburgers, fries, and cold drinks. Soon enough, he put down roots at 135 East and 900 South and opened the Don Carlos Barbecue. There, he began experimenting with foods and began mixing ingredients including mayonnaise and ketchup. This pink concoction was designed to be used as a hamburger topping, but sometime between 1941 and 1943, Don Carlos dipped a French fry in it and the rest became history. After that, he began making customers try it until it caught on. When he opened his next restaurant, the First Arctic Circle, fry sauce became a staple across the state of Utah and the entire Midwest. Today, virtually every burger joint in the state serves some version of the fry sauce, invented right here in Salt Lake City.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Capital City News. In the month of May, Salt Lake City hosts a series of events ranging from the Open Streets Festival to Living Traditions. We hope you get a chance to join us in downtown Salt Lake City. To learn more about events happening here in Salt Lake City, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at SLC.gov. Thanks for watching. We hope you join us next time. For SLC TV, I'm Poonam Kumar.
With our council meeting, since we have 4 people here with us, we will be waiting on Andrew to join us, but Councilmember Luke and Councilmember Mendenhall are not with us this formal meeting. So I just want to remind us of a couple of things as we get this council meeting started. First, I really appreciate everyone being here. It's always nice when people take time out of their own schedules to come and join us at a city council meeting. We look forward to hearing from everyone and really having you be a part of this political process that is so necessary for us. There are a few things that I would like to mention as we start the meeting. Some guidelines for both decorum and civility. We want to make sure that everyone in here feels safe and able to speak their thoughts, and to be able to feel comfortable in participating. So please be respectful during other people's comments. Avoid cheering or jeering. Something like that could cause somebody to feel intimidated and not want to share. And again, we want to make sure people feel comfortable in sharing their thoughts. We'd also like you to make sure to look around. This is a historic room. In fact, as I like to point out to everyone, it's the only room in the building that is still used for its original purpose from when it was built. So it is quite historic. We'd ask that you not stand on any furniture or deface any of the things within our room here. If you do have a sign, a prop, or any other piece of equipment, please make sure that it does not cause a disruption or block other people. Again, our goal is to make sure everybody feels that they have an ability to participate in our council meeting. And we'd also ask that you not approach the dais. If there is something that you would like to hand any of the council members, you can raise your hand, and we have council staff around the room that can help you out. Also, our staff is here to help. They're incredibly helpful. So if you need any assistance or have any questions, please raise your hand and a council staff member will come and help you. Now, our general comments are reserved for 2 minutes, and we recognize that that's not a lot of time. And I'm sure that you have several thoughts as you want to share with us, but we really ask that you stick to that 2 minutes. It's a rule that we have, and we ask everyone to be respectful of so that we can get everyone's thoughts heard. You can always continue your thoughts or continue what you'd like to say with any one of us council members via calling us or emailing us or setting up appointments with the staff. We're always here to listen, and we want to make sure we're listening, but in this setting, we really ask that you respect these rules and decorum as we move forward. All righty. Well, with all of that out of the way, let's get on to business. So if we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, I believe I'd like to turn the time over to Councilmember Wharton.
Thank you, Councilmember Fowler. I just want to take a moment of silence in remembrance of Douglas Cotent, who recently passed away. Thank you. And if I could just read this briefly. Douglas Cotent was a regular voice at our city council meetings over the last 2 decades, and he did pass away recently, and wanted to take this opportunity to recognize his commitment to our public process. Douglas was among the friendliest, most welcoming faces at our Tuesday meetings, always ready with a handshake and a passionate comment. It was clear from every interaction that he had with elected leaders that he loved Salt Lake City. He advocated for people with disabilities, the elderly, and those reliant on public transportation. City records show that he made one of his first public comments at a council meeting about 18 years ago on February 1st of 2000, when he asked the council if cars parked in bus zones were being ticketed. He shared his final comment with us on March 20th, 2018, when he requested more information about the future of the Road Home homeless shelter. Most of us will never forget the lovely emotional tribute that he made to his late wife, Mary, at our council meeting on May 1st, 2016, when he closed remarks by saying, "I have a picture of her in my wallet, and I just felt I needed to talk about her." From train etiquette to non-functioning elevators at his apartment complex, Douglas cared about the issues that impact the day-to-day lives of many people in our city, and he brought many to our attention that we would have otherwise been unaware of. Remarkably, his name appears in city council minutes more than 250 times, far more than the average council member. It's our hope that Douglas always felt heard, respected, and welcomed at our meetings, and we'll dearly miss him sitting there on the front row. Thank you. If I can hand the time back to Council Chair Fowler, or Council Member Fowler, who's chairing the meeting.
Thank you. And thank you for that. He will certainly be missed. So I did also want to point out that at today's meeting, we have that our council wears 3 different hats. One hat is as the board of the redevelopment agency. Another hat is as the board of the local building authority. And then, of course, we wear the hat of city council members. And today on our agenda, we do have all 3 hats that we will be switching off and wearing today. So we're going to start with our local building authority agenda. And we are now on item A4. Is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes of Tuesday, June 6th, 2017, Tuesday, June 13th, 2017, and Tuesday, May 1st, 2018?
So moved.
Second.
Wow, I think that was a motion by Councilmember Kitchen and a second by Councilmember Johnston. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the motion passes. And now we're at section B, the public hearing portion. I don't have any comment cards. I don't know if anyone wants to have any comment as it relates to local building authority. I don't see anything, so we'll keep going. At this point, we have, sorry, that's it. Lots of papers. Now, I think we can, yes? Oh, we have a
I
motion.
move that we continue the public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion to continue the public hearing by Councilmember Kitchen, a second by Councilmember Johnston. All those in favor?
Aye.
May we clarify to June 5th, so we have a date on it? Sure.
Yes, to June 5th. So we're continuing the public hearing to June 5th. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you. So switching hats, we are now as the board of the redevelopment agency, and our first item of business is A2, to approve the meeting minutes of Tuesday, March 20th.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Johnston, a second by Councilmember Rogers. All those in favor?
It wasn't me. I didn't second it. It was Councilmember Kitchen. I wish I could say. I was too slow.
Gosh, okay. Councilmember Johnston and a second by Councilmember Kitchen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Oh, excellent. We are at the public hearing section, and sorry, again, I only have one card regarding this, and this is regarding the resolution of the redevelopment agency, the fiscal year. And I have a comment card by George Chapman. So if Mr. Chapman wants to come and join us.
Okay. I also will miss Doug. The Utah law recently changed to allow you to put RDA funds into homeless services. But look at how much you put in. It's just, what, 100,000? It was minuscule. But RDA property went down in value $5 million because of homeless issues. and you should be spending more money. I mean, if you spend the money in the correct place, you're going to actually increase value of RDA property instead of having it go down. Your job as an RDA board is to increase the value of property, not let it go downhill by doing nothing. And by not spending more money on RDA homeless issues, which the state now tells you you can do, you're actually abrogating your responsibility. I'm asking you to spend a whole lot more than what you're budgeting right now on homeless. There are people down there that are still homeless. They're still putting up tents. Yes, the rest of the city is affected, but your property is affected more than anybody. Please put more money into homeless. It actually will help you, the RDA, make more money. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Chapman. I also have a comment card from Bernie Hart, if Mr. Hart wants to join us.
Bernie Hart, I don't know who I've seen speak more, Douglas or George Chapman. I think it may be a close race. It's always a pleasure to come to these meetings and see those two people, it was enjoyable. The homeless and spending money, I think it's about time that we have a different dialogue on the homeless issue and how we're spending money on the homeless issue, because nothing you've spent so far has impacted the problem, except the money you've spent on policing and driving and forcing the people from one place to another. It seems to change the face of the homeless problem in every neighborhood from day to day. But that's the only impact you're having. I don't see anything else happening in the city, and I'm amongst the homeless people almost every day. So I think it's time for a different conversation about storage and helping people in a different way, because whatever is happening isn't working. So whatever you could put in housing, because if the programs that the collective impact and the people are working on are actually going to work, the problem they should have started impacting the population already. And if they impact the population, they need housing, or they're going to be right back on the street again and on the street corner, and the police will just be in those cycles. So I don't know when somebody is going to break down and open the doors to somebody other than yourselves to have a conversation about homelessness, but I wish it would happen pretty soon. Money would help, but if it's not well directed and applied to things that are actually working, you're just throwing away our tax dollars. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. I just received another comment card from Mr. Eccles. So if Clifford Eccles would like to join us, please.
Thank you very much. I spoke a couple weeks ago on this, and I didn't have enough time. And the project you are proposing at the Capitol Motel is absolutely ludicrous. You want to open up State Street to Wilson Avenue. Like, give me a break, guys. If you have never traveled Wilson, it's so narrow. Cars are parked on both sides. Now you want to have more money. With this project, you're affecting housing right behind on Edison and Wilson and Coatesville, as well as other items. I have talked to the EPA for the last, well, I called them last week, and I spoke for a couple, probably 20 minutes to one gal in Denver. Told her the story because the Eccles family has owned that property since the 40s. We know what went on in that garage. It's not what went on in that garage. Okay, after I talked to the gal in Denver, she transferred me to a person in beautiful downtown Salt Lake. And I talked to him for over a half an hour, told him what really happened in that garage. It's not a warehouse, folks. He didn't know about the stream within that property that comes down from Mill Creek. And now you want more money. You don't even know what the hell you're spending the money for. I'm sorry. Your housing director did not do a very good job. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Eccles. I don't have any other comment cards for this particular public hearing. Is there anyone else that would like to speak at this time? In that case, I will look for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Was that you,
That
Mr.
was me,
Kitchen?
yeah.
Thank you. So we have a motion to continue the public hearing to June 5th by Councilmember Kitchen and a second by Councilmember Johnston. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Okay. We are certainly moving right along and changing our hats yet again. So we will be moving on to our formal city council meeting at this time. Our first item is item A2, excuse me, and this is to approve the work session meeting minutes. It is such a tongue twister for me. Of Tuesday, April 10th of 2018, as well as the formal meeting minutes of Tuesday, April 17th of 2018, and Tuesday, May 1st of 2018.
So moved.
That it would be a motion by Councilmember Kitchen and a second by Councilmember Rogers. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Sorry. There's a lot of, hold please. Okay, we're on to our public hearings. We sort of went out of order earlier, so I had to switch through this. But we are on to our public hearings. Our first public hearing is regarding the street closure at 1300 South between 900 West and the Jordan River. I don't have any comment cards on this. Is there anyone that would like to speak about this? Okay, then at this point, I would look for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move the council continue the public hearing to a future council meeting.
Second?
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Johnston and a second from Councilmember Wharton. To be clear, I believe that would be continued to the June 5th agenda. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Our next public hearing is for the ordinances listed below in the agenda, which are items B2 through B11 that are associated with the implementation of the mayor's recommended budget, including the library fund for fiscal year 2018 to 2019. We're going to hear all of these at the same time. So if you have any comments regarding B2 through B11, please pass them on now. And I do have several comment cards. I'll be calling people two at a time just so the second person can be prepared to speak after the first person's 2 minutes. So at this point, I'd call Jim Webster and Chris Robinson. If Mr. Webster would like to join us and if Mr. Robinson would be prepared. Thank you.
Yeah, I've spoken before this group on a lot of matters before, but I don't think I've ever been as upset as I am tonight. I feel absolutely victimized by the solar fees that I paid. I put up 8 panels, over $100 per panel. The inspector, there was absolutely zero help from the city going through the application process. And then I understood why when it came time to do the inspection. Inspector drove by, got out of his car, came over and talked to some of the guys that were working on the project, never went in the house to determine whether or not there were any structural issues, which was such a big deal. He never went up on the roof, never saw the panels. I'm sorry, but I really feel like it was extortive because I had to pay the money to get the fees or to get the permit. And in my opinion, I agree with Vicki Bennett. It should be an incentive. It should be something that perhaps shouldn't even cost you anything. The amount of outlay of the city spent in my particular case was probably less than $50, and yet I paid $850. I consider it the worst kind of draconian thing that I've ever been, experienced. And I'm a land planning consultant, I'm an architect, and I do a lot of different things. I was involved in solar planning when I was with TerraCore in the 1970s. We were building buildings with trom walls and active and passive solar. I know that industry. I finally was able to afford to do it, but it's going to take me an extra 2 or 3 years to pay off just the application fee for the city. I would like to have it refunded. I don't know whether that's possible, but it's just plain unfair and unreasonable.
Time.
And I can't say that any stronger than I have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Webster. And Chris, I apologize. Can I have Miss Robinson come up?
You can't tell I'm a woman by now, too bad.
Um,
I am upset about the solar fees as well, for the specific reason it's quite obvious that no one thought last November to inform us that you intended to build a 4-story building next door to us and let us pay the fees and put the solar panels on. And now what? Now we're stuck with a bill for the solar and the fees. Who cares, right? We will be glad to see the back of this city.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson. I have Cristobal Villegas, and after is George Chapman.
Good evening, council members, mayor, and staff. So it is good to know there's a record pertaining to how many times people have spoken. I have a long way to go, that's for sure. But for tonight, I would just talk about simply that more police does not equal less crime. I said this a few more times, and I'll say it again. More police does not equal less crime. So I was doing just some looking through the police website, department's website, and I found some great things, and I try to do more research as I can during full-time work and whatnot on my off time. But then I found out that we do have those, and I was already aware of it, the community intelligence units. And those are, awesome positions for people to have to go and interact with community members. However, as I was looking through the website, all 7 police officers are supposed to be community liaisons. All 7 of them are male-presenting, white-presenting individuals. So if these community intelligence unit officers are supposed to be the grassroots outreach to our communities, there's a little bit something that's in error. I believe in demographic representation, and even for District 1 and District 2, those people who are supposed to be those liaisons do not look even friendly for people to approach them. I've run into a few members that go to those meetings and they see them there and they're standoff because they look very intimidating. And so for me, for these community intelligence unit officers, I would say we need to have better people in there that represent the communities they're willing to serve. Next, I was also looking into the Salt Lake City crime stats, and only for some reason, I'm sure these stats are somewhere, but for some reason, only one area in Salt Lake City are there reports for, and that's District 1. And District 1 is on the west side, and yet I can't find any other reports for other districts in this Salt Lake City. So my question is, where can I access those reports to make sure that I know how many people are being detained, how many people are being held over? These are something that I just want to make sure people understand.
We can add,
Cool.
Thank you for your comments, and we can probably answer that question of where you should look if you want to ask a staff member. Thank you. So after Mr. Chapman, I have Bernie Hart again.
Well, I just thought of something else to talk about, but I want to talk, thank you for the 6% match on the 401k for police officers, but they need a whole lot more. When you're only getting 12 in an academy class, your next academy class is going to have 12, you need more police officers. And the best way to get more police officers is to give more salary. You're only offering, at best, 3%, which is the same as everybody else in here, like Margaret. Margaret deserves more than a 3% raise, but the police officers out there deserve a whole lot more than 3%. These are officers who actually take bullets for us. There's one officer in Salt Lake City who actually literally saved hundreds of lives. If it weren't for him, we would have had a carnage like much worse than Las Vegas. He gave us all. He was shot, he was wounded, and he shot the perpetrator down, who had a machine gun and 1,000 rounds of ammunition. These are officers who go to work every day knowing they may not come back. They deserve more than 3%. So whatever you can do to recognize that would really be appreciated. And if you want more cops on the street, that's the best way to do it. Regarding community intelligence officers, I don't know how you do it, but the best officers I've ever seen have gone through the community intelligence group. You're readying them for higher office, and they are good. They're amazing, and they do represent the community. I go to a lot of community councils, never thought about it before, but thinking about it, they do represent the communities they're coming out of. I recognize there's some issues about it, but they're really a big asset. So much so that you've been asked several times, your predecessor has been asked, demanded that those community intelligence officers stay. The communities love them. So these are officers that make the police officers look good, they make the police department look good, and they make the city look good. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Chapman. Mr. Hart, and then after Mr. Hart, I have Jacob Jensen.
I've attended CAG meetings, discussions about the police and the effectiveness of the police department and the shootings that have occurred in the by officers. And it's been a constant struggle to find out something, to find out why, and to try and do something effective to decrease that. And one of the things that has bothered me through that whole discussion, and it was brought to light in the Salt Lake Tribune over the last week, was the mental health concerns of the local officers. I don't think anybody in the city has really explored that issue, because when we ask the question at CAG, we get some kind of vague responses about peer support and some other blah, blah, blah. But I don't think anybody has a handle on the level of mental health issues that the police department, members of the police department are dealing with. And when you have somebody that's mentally ill, dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder or emotional disorders, dealing with another person with emotional conditions and is mentally ill, it doesn't bode well for how the situation is going to be handled. And I would just, off the top of my head, guess that at least 25% of the officers on the staff are dealing with some kind of issues, either diagnosed or undiagnosed. And I think it's, and before we start looking for solutions, we better start getting some answers to problems and finding what the situation is all about. So I would like to have you devote some funding to gather some information on that particular issue, because it's impacting the whole community in a negative way, and it doesn't help the police officers themselves that are mentally ill through no fault of their own, just because of the result of doing their job. So I'd like to get more information and find out what that's all about. I wish you'd fund it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. Jacob Jensen, and then next I have Dave Newellen. I hope I pronounced that last name correctly.
Hi, I'm Jacob Jensen. I think most of us have met, mostly on friendly terms. And I'm not only a member of Utah Against Police Brutality, but I'm also the liaison to the CAG. And instead of beating my normal drums and doing my normal points, which I'm sure the other people illustrate probably a little bit better than I will, as somebody who does participate in the CAG, I'm reminded of something just recently that they said when we talk about the high rate of killings here in the United States. And of course, Utah is a part of that statistic. And, we point out places like Denmark and stuff like this, and they just have less police killings. And, they're like, well, we have unique problems here that they don't have. That's true. But I think that we have an opportunity here in Salt Lake to be a leader of that change, because instead of getting 50 new police officers to reduce crime, which it doesn't, what we could actually do is we could do what those other countries are doing to reduce the killings, which is we're going to have proper housing, we're going to have proper programs in place to prevent crime rather than putting more guns in the hands of the police to kill people, especially if they want to do suicide by cop, which just happened here recently 3 weeks ago. That's unacceptable. Police accountability is something we can definitely talk about, but other people will make those points. That's something the police officer said here. We can't fix those problems. You guys can fix those problems, and it starts by making the budget available for that instead of for more police officers to kill more people. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave Newellen, and then Angela Moore, please.
Other than echoing what Mr. Villegas and Mr. Jensen have said, what I'll say is this. We've been told that our police hiring standards are high, that we hire the best police officers that are the least likely to hurt us and the least likely to do harm, and that's just wrong. It's incorrect, as a matter of fact. For instance, 40% of police officer families will experience domestic violence at some point, and that number goes up to 60% the longer that somebody is a police officer. That's ridiculous. That's absurd. Every new police officer that we hire is a potential harmer, a potential abuser. We say that we have high standards, but we're hiring people who are much more likely than the general population to, in fact, harm their families, harm the most vulnerable among us, people of color, women, indigenous people, anybody who has been oppressed by our system. I think it's irresponsible that we would hire new police officers without first addressing basic issues such as don't beat your wife, don't harm your family, don't shoot people of color just because you're afraid of them, right? Until we address those issues, until we say that absolutely not, we will have zero domestic violence among our police officers. We will shoot zero people unjustifiably. We should not hire a single new police officer. Until we have real high standards, until we can say that our standards of police officers are the highest in the nation, higher than anybody else's, why would we ever consider doing this? We are bringing more harm to our community than we are bringing so-called protection to our community. I recognize that some people, and I see their skin tone, think that police protect us. And I can tell you that people with different skin tones do not agree with this. They see police officers and they walk the other way. They see police officers and they cross the street. They see police officers and they go inside so that they don't get harassed. And as we all know, even being inside your own house isn't protection from police because they will enter, right? So I say no new police officers.
Thank you. Angela Moore, and then Victoria, and I cannot see the last name. It starts with an S.
I'm here to say don't fund the hiring of 27 more cops. Police don't make our communities safer. When I'm in danger, I'm as afraid of the police as I am of a threat at hand. And no, it's not because I'm breaking the law. I'm a so-called law-abiding citizen. It's because I know cops can shoot to kill just because they're afraid. Their reason can be fear, not justified calculations to preserve life, not training, but just fear can be used to justify shooting an unarmed human. So I can't call the cops because I don't want blood on my hands. So we can't trust the police to protect and serve, but we do have programs we know can protect and serve us. Let's use that $6 million instead of funding cops. Let's fund housing. Let's fund mental health treatments. Let's fund domestic violence shelters. Let's fund education. Let's fund anything but killer cops.
Thank you. Victoria, and after Victoria, I have Isael Torres. Victoria? Yes, welcome.
Thank you. My name is Victoria Situnya. I just wanted to talk about how excited I was when I heard that there was a Democrat who was going to be elected to office in this council, and talk about again how disappointed I was to see that as a black woman, as a black mother, I continue to be feared even though we have police in the state and in this area. I happen to be a major in criminal justice from Weber State University. Nothing that I have read would support, getting more police officers in force. Nothing has changed. Decades have passed. We still live in fear of police. So just like those who have spoken before me, I would suggest that we put, our resources in housing, working through the problem of drug addiction, working through our education systems, and providing people the basic, living needs. Mental health care. We cannot afford to have the system that we put in power employ people to extinguish the black people, to extinguish the black race. I don't think that is a government for people, by the people. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Isael and then Antonio Ferrero.
Buenas noches, good evening. Council members, Mayor, before anything, I'd like to offer recognition of the indigenous lands that we currently occupy. It is my first time approaching you all. I regret it's to express a concern and complaint regarding a pending item to phase in the increase of police enforcement. I, like many of us, are tired just from our day today. I had just ended a good day at my current position in providing a full day of orientation as the advisor to our incoming student government of the University of Utah, as well as the community involvement I have with our youth of color in my role with UCLR. I actually recognize today that it had been a whole 10 years since I graduated high school this month. In that time, I've been able to complete a bachelor's, a master's, worked in the White House, had the privilege of offering a TED Talk at TEDx Salt Lake City this past year. As far as my engagement with the law, the worst thing I have on any sort of record is a speeding ticket from when I was 17 in my hometown of Logan, Utah. I share all this to offer a context in my current growing rage of being aggressively questioned as I entered the public building today by the 3 officers stationed downstairs. My friend and I, 2 men of color, entered upon the conclusion of the Utahns Against Police Brutality rally prior to this meeting. We were not welcomed inside. We were questioned in police as if we owe any justification for our existence to these men who have been provided with authority to serve and protect. There is already an unfortunate rhetoric surrounding law enforcement, and my experience tonight does not help. It is unfortunate for me to say that I do not trust police officers. As Mr. Villegas has mentioned, more police does not mean more safety. Pay our teachers, not our police.
Thank you, Isael. And Antonio? And then after Antonio, I have Jeff Bauer.
Yeah, good evening. My name is Antonio Fierro. I represent the Rose Park Brown Berets. And, we don't need more cops in the streets. I come from Rose Park. There's a lot of harassment that's going on among our youth, police brutality. And it's easy to say cops help our communities when you're a white middle-class person. But when you come from a marginalized community, which we call the hood, you know what I'm saying? We see them as the oppressors. We don't need more kids dying from police because they're scared of us. And as well, they say cops save lives, but whose lives are they saving? Are they saving kids from the hood? Are they people of color? And it's just the fact that, the police system has a long history of, racism, Putting more police of color is not going to help as well. You see? Because the system's already built on racism. It's just the same thing, putting, having more politicians of color, politicians of politician. This whole system is built on racism, and we should be, and they wonder why there's crimes in the West Side. Why there's crimes on the West Side is because we have less access to resources. Okay? So if you guys want to help out, spend money putting more resources on the West Side, Rose Park, Glendale, West Valley. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff, and Jeff is my last comment card that I have right now. If you are interested in speaking on any of these items, please fill out a comment card and hand them to one of our council staff. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you. I serve on the community council for Liberty Wells, which is often called the Hood by people that don't live in our neighborhood. Our neighborhood is the most ethnically diverse neighborhood in Salt Lake City. And over we hear from the residents of my community that police aren't available. They call and they're told, well, they're higher priority items. A police officer can't come, go to the website, fill out a report, and we'll get to it. My house was broken into 8 times over 6 years. often, again, just an officer's not available. That's the response that the residents get. They're tired of hearing that no one's available to help with their concern. Someone's sleeping on their front porch, someone's actively breaking into their house, and the comment is there's no officers available. So I understand the need for more officers, but I also understand the need for outreach. And I think that should also be included in the budget, outreach to the communities to help answer these concerns and these questions. And also, I want to say that the community liaison officers are a huge help. Thank you for having those in place, and I hope they continue to be there because they help so much with each community. Thank you.
That was my last comment card on items B2 through B11. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to these items? In that case, I will look to my council members for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move the council continue the public hearing, items B2 through B11 to the June 5th council meeting.
Second.
I have a motion by council member Johnston and a second by council member Rogers. Any discussion? In that case, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that will pass. Sorry, 1 second. Our next items, B12 through B15, will also be heard as one public hearing. I don't have any comment cards on this. Is there anyone who would like to speak to these items? In that case, I will look to my council members.
Madam Chair, I move that the council close the public hearing and refer items B12 through B15 to a future consent agenda for consideration.
Second.
I have a motion by council member Kitchen and a second by council member Johnston. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. We're on to section C of our agenda. Our first item is regarding an ordinance amending the final budget for the library budget of Salt Lake City for fiscal year 2017 to 2018. Whew.
Madam Chair, I move the council adopt the ordinance amending ordinance number 30 of 2017, which adopted the final budget for the library fund of Salt Lake City for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2017 and ending June 30th, 2018.
Second.
I have a motion by council member Kitchen, a second by council member Rogers. Is there any discussion on this? In that case, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Next, we are at the comments section of our agenda. Are there any for the mayor? Are there any questions of the mayor? And Mayor, thank you very much for being with us today. Appreciate it. Is there anything? Nope. All righty then. You got off, everyone's off, getting off easy today. Now, on item D2, next we have general comments. And again, similar to what we just did, I'll call people two at a time. Please be respectful of the time. When our staff member says time, I would ask that we have a lot of people who want to speak tonight. So instead of me asking you to please step down, I'd ask that you please be respectful today of the time that we have so everyone gets a chance. With that said, Robert Atwell and then Clifford Eccles, please.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, council members. My name is Bob Atwell. I live in Salt Lake City. I'm here tonight to possibly change the tone of some of the conversation I'd share with you to start with. These are very critical comments that you've been hearing for the last half hour. I'm here tonight to talk about golf. So it's a little bit of a change. I have been very active with this council and the mayor's office over the course of the last 2 years looking at the golf program. We have responded to your RFP and your RFI in the last 2 years. We note that you continue to publicize that you have about a $25 million deferred maintenance budget, and you also are running at about a $700,000 rate right now as far as not having enough revenue coming in. This is year over year over year. One of the things I'd like to share with you is the members of the group that I have brought together. These are members who were presidents of the PGA associated with the USGA and the NCAA, would like to continue to sponsor our option that you outsource the operations of the golf here in Utah. It's not to sell the courses, is to keep the public lands open and free to the members of our community, but it is to allow you to climb out from underneath a $700,000 per year annual deficit. We believe that there is a very simple way to accomplish. We would like the opportunity to continue. The second thing I'd like to support is that golf is, in this country right now, one of the sports most able to deliver diversity and inclusion. More women, more people of color are coming to the game of golf than any other sport in our country right now as young. And one of the things that I believe in, that our mayor and my council believe, is diversity and inclusion. This game supports those particular values, and we do believe that we have the ability to reduce your deficit to zero. We believe that we have the ability to bring to this city a more diverse and inclusive population to this game, which is wonderful.
Time.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Eccles. And after Mr. Eccles, I have Gary Eccles. So Clifford Eccles first.
Again, thank you very much. I appreciate the time. I spoke initially about the budget and the monies you're spending. And I don't think you understand the project that you are undertaking. It's going to be a lot more than you think it's going to be, especially with the EPA involved. Your housing director lived like 3 blocks away. Mr. Post, good man, comes from a great family. He did not know what transpired in that garage. It's not a warehouse, it's a garage, as I said before, as well as the stream behind it. And the person that bought the project didn't know about that. So I think between the mayor, city council, the housing people, you bought off more than you can chew. And it kind of reminds me of what happened just up in Sugar House. Ouch.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Gary Eccles, and then Chris Robinson, please.
I'm here once again about the Capitol Motel and what you guys have done or going to do. I wish that every one of you guys had your parents living in this kind of a problem that you guys are doing. I can only wish that that would happen to you, and how sad it is. I'm not sleeping well. I am very, very hurt. I've worked on Mendenhall's election. I've worked on our mayor's election, and I won't be helping them ever again. I am very saddened to think that you would come and destroy a neighborhood that has been a neighborhood and had a private street and open it up to all kinds of different kinds of people and just bring outright turmoil to the neighborhood. We've put solar in, and we're not gonna be able to use it because it's gonna be a 4 or 5 story building. And the city shouldn't have gave us that permit. They really shouldn't have sold it because they knew what they was doing, and they would have saved us a lot of money. And I don't know what we're going to do about any of this, but I know that you guys doing what you're doing doesn't have a care in the world about what it's doing to me. Because you're not in my shoes. You don't have the problems that I'm going to have if I stay. And I could only wish that on every one of you guys, what it will do, because I am just so sad that my city council would do this to me. And I know you guys don't speak, but you can't. Yes.
Sorry. If, after Chris Robinson, if we could have George Chapman, please. Okay. George, and then David Newland.
You know that I thought the sales tax should all go to streets, but since you're going to spread it around, let's talk about transit. You're already discussing where to spend the money on transit, and you haven't talked to the community councils about where they want it. James, Andrew, your area has a bunch of buses that go around in a super milk run zigzag, and even your report mentioned that to meet Title IV, I think it is, requirements, they go in a zigzag, which actually discourages ridership on mass transit. Those routes on the west side need to go straight through. For instance, Redwood Road should be going to the airport. Why not? So you're not talking about that. You're talking about upgrading Second South. Second South has a good bus system, 15 minutes. That works. You don't need to go down to 7 minutes. You don't need to pour in money in projects. You need to have a better bus system that people want to ride. And the west side really, really needs it. Before you spend any money on projects, you should be spending the money on better mass transit service, especially late at night and on weekends. You really want to encourage mass transit use, that's the best way. Avenues should be getting a straight shot in. But again, it's a zigzag if you look at the map on the proposal. It doesn't work like that. If you want people to ride mass transit, it has to be straight in. So I'm asking you to go to the community councils and ask them before you put in stone what you're going to do, ask them what they think, what they want. They really should have a voice in that. Regarding golf, thank you, Emmy, for defending golf. And yes, mixed use does work, and I know, James, you have issues with it, but it is a potential way of saving golf. I don't understand why golf is costing us money. It shouldn't. The best reason I can think of is water is overcharged.
Time.
You know, Andrew, last year what happened. Please revisit the water issue. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, George. If I could have David Newland, and after David, I have Antonio Fierro.
So I'll just amend my earlier comments to say this, to give you an idea of what a better use of this money would be. First, I'll say we have to understand that nobody commits crimes just because they want to, right? Crime doesn't happen just because someone decides to be a criminal. Crime happens because A, there are very few or no other choices for somebody to accomplish the goals that they have on their life, which is survival of the least among us and the most oppressed among us. Or number two, because their very lifestyle has been criminalized by bodies such as this one, right? We made it a crime to be homeless in this city. We made it a crime to arrest people who are sleeping on the street because they don't have a home. We made it a crime to arrest people because they had a little bit of weed, which, by the way, is legal in several other states now, right? So we're either putting people in positions where they have no other options but to commit crime, or we're criminalizing their very lifestyles and their very behaviors to begin with. So what we need to do, what would be a better use of every single dollar that you're considering appropriating to new police officers, would be more services, more jobs programs, more affordable housing, more money for our libraries, more money for technology, right? These kinds of things are what will be useful for us. These are the things that will actually reduce crime. Every single dollar that we spend on alleviating social problems and economic problems in our community is the real way that we're going to solve crime. We will never arrest our way out of these problems. We will never shoot our way out of crime in this city. We will never shoot and arrest our way out of racism and oppression in this city. If you're going to spend money to solve the problems that crime has either created or the problems that create crime to begin with, you should be spending money on services, affordable housing, education, and jobs. That's what we should be spending money on. Thank you.
Thank you. Antonio? No? Okay. Cristobal, I have another from you. And after Cristobal, I have Isael, but I don't see Isael. Did he leave? Okay.
All right, so round two. So as y'all have heard, many of us have doubts in the increase that cops can have on communities. And I just want to second everything that was been said. I had the privilege to listen to the council work session. I try to go into those as often as I can. And the idea that I really liked was the the council lobbyist. I think that's a really great idea. I think if that lobbyist person can be somehow connected to more to different parts of maybe like invisible communities here in Salt Lake City, I think that'd be really beneficial to have someone fighting for different communities, but on the Hill. I think that's a really awesome idea. Next, I want to highlight the Salt Lake City Ambassadors Program. That was highlighted in the work session, and I think that was a really awesome thing. But I only heard during the work session that y'all wanted to increase about $50,000, and it's been working really great. I think we should go higher with that, honestly. I haven't been able to look in depth into the program. However, I think they deserve much more allocation of the funds. There is a difference between them and the police officers. No guns and educated in social work. And I think that's has done marvelous work. I read a few articles on in the news, and it showed that they were able to rehabilitate different individuals on the street. So I think that's a really great program, and I would love for more of the police funds to go into the Salt Lake City Ambassadors Project that's endorsed by the Downtown Alliance. And then also, just a quick mention, more clarification. The community liaison, the community intelligence unit, it's not that I'm against that in particular, but rather I'm more for a demographic representation. I think it would be cool to multiply it, have 14 people, 2 to each district, but have more gender diversity because they're all male presenting, and then also have more racial diversity. At least to my eyes, they were mainly white presenting. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Bernie, I have Bernie Hart next. And after Mr. Hart, I have Skylar, I think it says Whitney.
Nothing ever changes. It's always the same old solutions. More money, more money, more money, never any new ideas. I was sitting here, I had to smile because nothing changes. We just go around in circles. I refuse to do that. I'm too old to screw around and do the same dumb, stupid things all over again that I've seen done for my entire lifetime. The gentleman that just come up here and talked about golf, my wife chased him out of here. Follow him out in the hallway. I'm going to start a golf program for the homeless. And I'm going to do it within a month. And I'm going to have them on a golf course. And I'll have the same numbers we have in our Tai Chi program. We have the largest physical activity program for the homeless probably in the country. And who talks to us? Nobody. Because it's different. It doesn't fit into the mold of what the current dynamic considers success or what success looks like. We have a homeless ski program. I'm talking to 2 ski areas. The homeless can't ski. Sure they can. We're going to have a homeless ski program at 2 ski resorts next winter with no help from any government organization. We don't want any government money. We want none of your money. All I want you to do is think and start thinking about new ways to deal with our problems. Because I haven't heard it and I haven't seen it from the mayor's office or from the council office, from the county mayor's office, or from the state. There's only one gentleman that ever approached me with a new idea, and that's Representative Paul Ray. Tightrope walker. It takes a tightrope walker to think about a problem in a different way. Please start thinking about the problem in a different way. Thank you.
Thank you. Skylar Whitney? Okay, Jeff Bear. And Jeff's is the last card I have, so if there's anyone else who would like to say anything, please fill out a card.
Hello again. She's handing out a packet I have for each of you. It was about a month or so ago, I came and spoke to you about the development at 620 East. Oh, my error, I have 2100 South, but it's actually 1700 South. And since then, I've learned there is actually a term for that type of development. It's called a slot home. The sideways-oriented townhomes are packed into a lot, often with garages on the first floor of each unit. So the first page, there's photos, it shows it meets all the criteria. Garages on all first floor, it's packed edge to edge on the property. What I had brought up the last time I spoke was there's no context with the neighborhood. Everything around it is brick. This is all stucco. I don't know how this got approved by planning, but as more and more infill happens to increase density, to increase housing, affordable housing, this is going to come up more and more, and we should address it. Denver City Council, they outlaw slot homes after years of neighborhood outcry. After years of booming development, Denver's slot home crackdown comes too late for some neighborhoods. Let's learn from Denver's mistakes. Let's look at this. Let's come up with an approach. The last piece is a document that was commissioned by Denver, and it has strategies for how to address this and how to move forward. I would beg you to start a discussion about this. Again, let's learn from Denver's mistake. Let's not repeat their mistakes. Let's do responsible growth and responsible density for our city. And if you haven't driven by 620 East, 1700 South, I honestly encourage you to do it and see what's there. And that just cannot be repeated in our city, especially in established neighborhoods.
Time.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have somebody with a raised hand who would like to speak. So we're sending someone your way now. And why don't you just step on up? Tell us your name first, please.
My name is Vu Cao. Maybe some of you here maybe know me. I am the owner of 1310 South 900 West, the little property there. I got a letters from you about closing that road, and I know sooner or later we'll do that. But I'm still trying to find out property to locate my business. But at this point, I found several of them, but it's cost a lot more than what the city offered me. So that's why that's a hold up, and I just can't. There's a big gap. I cannot fill in with the new business just like I have now to relocate my business. So it's a possible way that I can keep what I have, and then you should build and you should do what you have, and I should. But that should have thought. But if the price reasonable, then I definitely move on. But it has to be something that I can afford to move, because the way the city talk is really like what the city offer me. The way they offer me is like 1/4 of the price that I can buy the same building somewhere else. I really can't. So that's always.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we will move on. We have no new business. We're at section F, our unfinished business. Our first item, F1, is regarding a resolution that would amend and ratify a task force agreement between DEA Metro Narcotics and the Salt Lake City Police Department. I'll look for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move the council adopt a resolution authorizing an amended DEA Narcotics Task Force interlocal agreement.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Kitchen, a second by Councilmember Wharton. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Our second unfinished business item is regarding an ordinance granting a master license agreement for right-of-way access to NextNet Systems, Inc.
I move that the council adopt an ordinance granting master license agreement to Extenent.
Thank you.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Kitchen and a second by Councilmember Rogers. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. We are now at the consent portion of our agenda. I'll look for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to adopt all of the items on the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Wharton, a second by Councilmember Johnston. Any discussion on this? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Wait.
I'm so confused. I said all
said
those in favor,
opposed.
and I said
Excuse
all those
And you
opposed.
said aye.
I'm gonna vote for this.
Okay.
So I am in favor of this.
Okay, so let's do that again. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye. I'm just kidding.
James, it's too late in the day for that. The consent agenda passes unanimously of those that are here today. And with that, unless there's anything I'm missing, and I look to my right-hand people, which is really on the left, but then we are adjourned. Thank you.